You go ahead, Linda. I somehow
Oops.
lost what I needed on my screen. You begin, please. I'll be there in a second, really, or
Okay.
30.
Okay. Welcome, everyone. We're going to continue with the topic that we had started last week. I think time is moving strangely on sabbatical for me. So I think it was sometime last week that Nelly and I started talking about the imagination of the unreal, which led to some projections and defense mechanisms. And today we're going to wander around the topic of denial, and denial as a defense mechanism, but also as something that we deal with in our Dharma practice and in our lives. Nelly, are you up and on board?
I'm good. I've been good for a while. So I would also say that denial is the opposite, or goes in the opposite direction from awareness. Sati, which is really, which is translated as mindfulness, which is, a lot of what we're about, becoming more aware.
Right. And there's many manifestations of denial, of not being aware. And it could be something as, maybe more simple or as surface as looking like we're not interested in something. We just don't want to know more about it, to an extreme reaction of being revolted by something. There's something that really triggers us that can often be a sign of denial.
Which is why we speak so often and highly about curiosity, because curiosity is going the opposite direction from not being interested in something, which is why we made the subtitle of our book, Cultivating Kindness and Curiosity in the Buddhist Company. We are really trying to cultivate curiosity, which really will bring us out of the things we're denying.
Yeah. And sometimes we don't know we're in denial, right? Isn't that part of denial in a sense?
No, I'd say almost much of the time, all the time, no, much of the time.
Yeah.
When it's really functioning as a denial mechanism, we don't know we're denying something. It just isn't part of our lives, our inner world.
Right. And that's why some of these ways were manifest, like, even a way of being numb or freezing up around something. I mean, it's something to question ourselves. When we have a reaction or lack of reaction to something, are we in denial? And I think it's, this is kind of going into our next bullet point, Nelly, but I think that it's a very tender time when we start to become aware of the denial. And that's a time that actually we have to take care of ourselves.
Right, because the denial had a function. It protected us from dukkha, from seeing dukkha, from knowing dukkha. And once we see it, that changes a lot. It changes a lot. Right. And see it in a particular situation. We're talking in general terms now, but really we're talking that this happens situationally.
Right. And I would say it could be a habit, a sankhara, or a pattern for somebody to want to punish themselves when they see that they've been ignoring something or not facing the dukkha and have been in a kind of denial. And it's I think it's a development to actually be kind to yourself at that time, to be more tender, to be really taking into account the delicacy of that situation.
And also, I often use this metaphor that awareness is in the soup. That's the metaphor of the soup now. So it's not just dukkha. It's not just, awfulness. It's not just, oh my God, how could I have not known this? How could I have not known this and done that hurt somebody else? Also, there's awareness now. And so it's good to, notice that positive quality.
Yeah, along with that awareness, I'm thinking of the, past experiences where that dukkha has been transformed, or again, a general dukkha, or a sense of, if you go further into the dukkha, it can turn in to something that's more knowledge or more understanding. And that memory becomes part of the soup too, right? Because I think we have to experience that to start to believe it and to start to keep propagating that direction.
Right. And this is where I can make a pitch for our reflective process, because we keep noticing, because we reflect back and we notice like, oh, that was awful. And then it turned into something really useful, helpful, maybe transformative. But it's often in reflection that we both become more aware of that, but also kind of put it into our internal knowledge base.
Right. Right. And also keep getting the right support, looking for the right support to continue that process. Often for me, I need kind of a group like this where we're kind of all going in that direction and supporting each other to look at this and reflect upon it and, counter some of the shame and blame that comes up with looking at, our past denial of situations.
Right. And I spoke about last time, and we do often speak about, then there's also the right internal support, which we believe reflective meditation provides.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Some periods of more calm, ability to sort of step back a little bit and look at it rather than always be completely subsumed in it.
Yeah. 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 It also goes in kind of, or we're taking the talk in the direction of like accountability and like, what do you do when you start to recognize, this denial and maybe even the harm that's been caused from it, and take that in and make amends or do something that would lead it in a positive direction. I found this quote on the internet, and it has no attribution, but I liked it. Accountability feels like an attack when you're not ready or able to acknowledge how your behavior harms others.
So that really speaks to that same delicate process, both internally, not punishing yourself, but maybe this speaks to not punishing others, and maybe not also, being careful about when they might be ready or able.
Right.
Things.
Right.
Sensitive about that.
Right. Right. Because many times, sometimes, we can even be aware of a kind of denial that we're in. We talked about, and you spoke about this last time, a healthy denial that we might have, that we're actually aware of something going on, but we're letting it, we're letting that kind of ignoring the denial happen for positive purposes. But it was interesting, and we were talking about this morning, is that sometimes the feeling is blocked, and that can really make an entirely different situation when you're trying to just fend off the feeling of being harmed or harming or hurt, pain, dukkha again.
And I would just kind of change the wording a little bit there, which is not that you're trying to, because it's unconscious. So
yeah, that's a good point.
You might not be trying, but it's happening, and something's going on, but you don't feel it.
Yeah.
And so then that's and we're all about the necessity to feel dukkha before we can make changes, or deep changes.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. This trying has a kind of intentionality to it, right? That has a type of consciousness or awareness. If we're trying to do something, it's not unconscious. But sometimes I feel like even in my trying, I'm unconscious about certain things, because of course we can't know all the conditions in these situations. Yeah.
So, this is something I said last week, and I'm going to say in different words this week. It's that others often, though, pick up that feeling that we're denying, especially if you're around people who are more sensitive, and especially if you're meditating a lot, which makes, I believe, most people more sensitive. And so it feels bad to others to be around. Like sometimes, I'll pick up what people are denying. It's a conundrum, because they're probably not ready to talk about it, but boy, it's in the room. and I'm feeling it. And so it's a conundrum because I don't want to be around it and they don't want to be around it.
Everybody leaves the room.
More or less, yes,
Yeah, yeah.
physically or emotionally, or suffers under it. That's the other thing. So that's why, if other people are picking it up and really feeling it, that's why it's an act of kindness to yourself and others to become more aware, to deny less, but
Mhm.
only as we're able, slowly and carefully.
Because it's confusing. It can be confusing. I mean, you did a nice ending sentence there, so I might have you say it again, Nelly. But I was just thinking that part of the dukkha with the whole projection and denial is that whose is it? What is it? It just can be so confusing. And I think taking the time to reflect on it, to sit with it, to go into it more deeply is actually wearing it away and making it more clear.
Right. Well, whose is it? That's another Dharma talk. Thanks for coming up with one.
Yeah, tomorrow to be continued. All
All
right.
right. Now we meditate, huh?